Darren and Dennis for being on the call today. Guys, just for those that are listening, we've got a really exciting call ahead of us. We've got Darren Hunter and Dennis Youssef from Inspired Growth Training here to speak with us. For those of you that may not know, these guys are two of the top rock stars of property management globally, and it's a huge honor to have them with us on the call today. They both hail from Australia, in case you couldn't pick that up with the accents, and they've graciously agreed to speak with us on the call. There's a really big time difference for them. I believe it's about 1:30 or 2 a.m. in the morning, so a big thank you to them for being willing to be on the call with us. During the presentation, as Darren moves through it, would encourage you, if you've got questions, Q&A that you'd like to have addressed, please use the chat box in the Zoom app, and we'll try to address a few of those at the end if there is time. Just a few quick words about each of these guys. So Darren Hunter is a leading expert and industry authority in fees and overcoming fee discounting. He's been a consultant and trainer now for over 11 years, having previously worked as the state property manager with one of Australia's most respected real estate brands, recruiting, training, implementing policies and procedures, and managing 28 property managers in 18 regional offices over South Australia. In 2006, he wrote the National Property Management Policies and Procedures for the third largest rent roll in Australia, and he presents at seminars around the globe, ranging in many topics from new business acquisition, fee justification scripts, rent control, income maximization, things of that nature. We also got Dennis Youssef on the call with us. Dennis got his start as a BDM for Integrity Real Estate on the south coast of New South Wales in Australia, and he achieved over 900 new management contracts in an astonishing 4-year period. In 2012 alone, for example, he obtained a staggering 317 new contracts. Today, he serves as a coach, trainer, mentor to some of the top property management companies around the world. And together, as I mentioned, they both lead the Inspired Growth Training Group and help clients achieve dramatic results in the growth of their business. So it's a great honor to have them with us today. And I will now turn the call over to Darren.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for the intro, and welcome everybody. Dennis and I, of course, we are from Inspired Growth Training. Please check out our Facebook page, Inspired Growth Training, as well, if you do want to follow us after this session. But Dennis and I, we formed Inspired Growth Training around about 9 months ago now, I reckon, Dennis. And we're both individual trainers and consultants, full-time working in the property management training space. It's probably not something you see in the USA too often with full-time trainers. And we had an incredible synergy together. In fact, the session that we're going to do today is part of the original national tour that Dennis and I did together, where we saw we had synergy, and after that we came together formally. Also, the session that we're doing today is actually part of the training session, the one-day event that Dennis and I will be doing together in September in Lake Tahoe in Nevada for the NAPM, Northern Nevada NAPM group. So if you want to be part of that, you're welcome to email me for details. Go to darren@inspiredgrowthtraining.com. We can get you some details over for that. Now, just before we move on, just love to get some chat from you. When it comes to training, it's really important that training is two-way. Dennis and I very much like to get any comments or feedback from you. Is anyone here that's seen myself train before? I have trained several times. I've done NAPM Houston a couple of years ago, also a few sessions with NAPM in San Antonio. And I think, Dennis, also you've also done a NAPM session in San Antonio as well.
No, I did. Yeah, I did. I did it in San Antonio in February 2017. And yes. I also was the one of the keynotes. I did 2 back-to-back sessions at the PM Grow, the inaugural PM Grow conference as well.
Yep. Okay. So look, moving right along, we do have an hour. We'll do our best to get through this hour content. We've picked something that we know is going to really resonate with all of the brokers in the session today. Just give a little bit of feedback as well. Do you ever get requests for discounts when you're out there pitching business? Feel free to put your comments in the room, but we're here today to give a solution, surrounding some of your biggest objections. So if you've ever had, well, if you can match your fee to the other agent down the road will sign with you, or well, the other agent is cheaper, or the other agent will give a discount, why can't you? We're going to give you some real practical responses on how you can deal with those fee objections, and more importantly, walk away with your fee and become more profitable. Because one thing I'd love you to do right now is to stop doing property management. That's right. You've heard me say, stop doing property management. What I mean by that is that you've got to run from it. You've got to repent from it. You've got to renounce it. You've got to run far, 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 far away and never do it again. And instead do profitable, quality property management. Of course, there is a difference. So, Dennis, any last words from you before we get started in this session?
No. I mean, it's an exciting session that you're going to do. But one thing I will say early, it's and Darren and I are both in a lot of the US Facebook property management groups, and Farah's said that it happens all the time, and we do see comments in there about agents always offering cheaper fees or owners wanting cheap fees. It's not about the fee you're charging; it's about how much money you're saving a client. Your job's to educate people, as you're going to learn in this, and how Darren's going to educate you guys to educate them about how much money you're saving them and what it'll cost them if they don't use you. So,
correct. Correct.
Darren?
So I think the biggest thing you're going to get out of today is that though the owner might think he's saving $200 or $300 in fees, going with a cheaper agent down the road, you've got to show to them how it actually cost them thousands of dollars in extra costs and hidden costs later on if they go with the wrong agent. So let's move on. But Dennis, I'm going to get you to manage the chat room for me, and I'll be watching it on the PowerPoint. And this is one of my sessions we're doing today. Dennis, of course, has so much material, I should say. And we're just going through one of mine. And okay, so I'll just share screen now. So just bear with me, and we're going to bring up. There we go. Just make sure, Dennis, you can see this. Let me know you can see this. Okay. Alrighty, and I'll just move that screen over here so I can see you as well. But Dennis again. So, alrighty, so this session here is from our Geared for Growth session, 10 strategies, scripts, and methods to overcome discounting. If you want these notes, can you please email me, darren@darrenhunter.com, and we'll send you these PowerPoint notes as well. All right, now, firstly, let's move on. Okay, now, this is one of my favorite quotes. You only get what you believe you're worth and what you can justify. Now, we have already 2 years ago, we called up about 500 agencies in Texas. Yes, that's right. Texas is the only state where we've done it to such level. And we did our secret fee shopping. We pretended to be property investors, and we called up and we got most agents were quite willing, of course, to give us their fees over the phone. Also, the fees were found on their website. And what we found was quite a different level of fees. The management fees were different, the leasing fees were different, the other fees were different. And there was no real pattern to why some agents charge higher management fees, some lower management fees, higher leasing fees, lower leasing fees. And it really comes down to this. There is one pattern. And whoever set these fees in the office, when they sat down and wrote, well, I believe we are worth X percentage on our management fees. Well, they wrote down that figure in accordance with what they believed they were worth and what their service results were worth. And their leasing fee, well, they also wrote that down. Yes, they looked in accordance with what the market was doing, but they charge or wrote down what they believed they were worth. And so your fees right now, with whatever you're charging with your management fee, with your leasing fee, with your other fees, of course, we won't be mentioning any numbers today because of your antitrust concerns, but whatever your fees are, you cannot get any better. You can't do any better because that's what you believed they are worth in accordance with your market. And here is some good news. We're probably all struggling with discounters down the road. And whatever your fees are, you have set them in line with what you believe them to be worth. If you believed them to be worth more, you would have charged more. So right now, your fees represent the limit of what you believed you are worth. But your discounters down the road, they've also done the very same thing. So what that means is whatever fees they're charging, being perhaps a lower management fee, a lower leasing fee, or anything like that, well, they have set their fees in line with what they believe they are worth as well, despite knowing likely that there are more expensive agents down the road. They've decided to charge less because they believe what they deliver is worth less as well. It's really important to understand. Everybody understands you get what you pay for. And so therefore there is a reason why your discounters down the road have charged less, is because they believe what they deliver is worth less as well. All right, important principle to understand as we move on. Okay, now discounting, how expensive is it? There's a lot of discounting that goes on in the market, and your marketplace where you are working right now is no different from any other marketplace on the planet. We can fall into this, I don't know, false perception that our marketplace is the most aggressive with discounting. It's the hardest, but your marketplace is no different from anywhere else, particularly here in Australia. We get it all the time. My marketplace is too many discounters, and there always is going to be the pressure to discount. So let's talk about discounting and how expensive it really can be. So let's work on an example of rent being $1,500 a month. And if any discounting goes on, usually it's surrounding the management fee. Where the pressure is to discount surrounds that main management fee. And let's say that discounting is of 1%, that let's say the agency down the road was to give a discount of 1% against you, so 1% less. So on $1,500 a month in rent, well, that's $15. Times that by 12 months, well, that's $180. So that discount is worth now over a year. Now, if you have that management, you have that door for 5 years, that's the lifespan of that management. Well, that's going to be $900 over 5 years that 1% is worth now. Now, and 30 new managements. Now, over 5 years, if you signed up in 1 year, 30 managements and gave a 1% discount, over 5 years, that discount is now worth $27,000.
You're being kind with only 30 doors, Darren.
I'm being very kind here. And of course, there are agents in the room that are charging $1,800 a month in rent, or that could be less at 13, and you've got some properties out there less than $1,000 a month, but you get the idea. And I want to put this on the table to you. There's probably about 40 to 50 different points of difference that you can use to impress the prospective owner instead of discounting. But if you use discounting, it could cost you, in this example, $27,000 per year, every year. And my point to you is every other point of difference that you could have used is a lot cheaper than $27,000. There's so many. You could do walkthrough video tours and showing people through rental properties with your property marketing and impress owners with that. You could use all manner of different points of difference, which is a lot cheaper than $27,000. So with that in mind, just moving on, discounting is the most commonly used, but also the most expensive point of difference out there in the market. It is a point of difference, and it's the most expensive. So why do we choose and default to the most expensive? You see, without an effective point of difference, if you look the same as everyone else, that you do, one inspection a year or 2 inspections a year, and so does your competitors. If you do the same as your competitors and your prospective client doesn't see you any different, then you're opening yourselves to discounting because the owner is wanting a discount. You are then making yourself vulnerable to discount requests by choosing to look the same as your competitors. That's where a lot of brokers get into trouble, because they simply haven't forged or put in strong points of difference. Now, also understand your point of difference only works if it appeals to a key problem or desire. Now, you might want to write this down, but if your point of difference or several points of difference appeal to the big three, which is the best rent, the best tenant, in the quickest possible time. If your points of difference can all tap into those and you impress the client that way, you are likely then to get the business, and now your fees are secondary. But if you have points of difference likely outside of appealing to those big three, or you have no points of difference at all, you're leaving yourself open to fee discount requests because you haven't proactively given a point of difference. Now the prospective owner is going to be asking for a point of difference, and it's always going to be about your fees. So get some strong points of difference, and you're taking that target very much off your back. All right, now we're going to be talking a lot about scripts and responses today, and the effective use of scripts and dialogue can often be the difference between you winning and losing the business. Now, with scripts, and with the ones I'm presenting you today, please don't robotically learn them word for word. Just understand the concepts. Again, if you want these scripts, I'm going to give you a lot of really good ones. Email me, Darren@Inspired.
Your email's down in the bottom. I put it in the comments.
.com. Okay, thank you very much.
Email's in the comments. Someone, Jim did ask, so I've popped it in there for everyone. So Darren, what you're saying is, if I'm in the house and I'm doing a presentation to an owner and they ask me a question, I can't just say, can you hang on a minute? I've got Darren's audio in the car. Let me just run in and listen to that script again at section 3.5 and then go back and answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to learn this stuff by rote. And Dennis, thank you for bringing that up. Look, I'm sure some of you guys, you know some veterans, you maybe one yourself. And, you know, maybe, you know, at your time at military college, you did, you know, out, you're doing military drills and so forth. You would have done the same thing over and over and over again, because when you are in a war zone and you're running onto that beach or running into that, you know, that battlefield, and the machine guns are flying and the mortars are going, and absolute chaos and mayhem and hell is breaking all around you. That fear that just sets in, it's only your training that you learn by rote is now going to kick in and become second nature. Your training then becomes second nature and becomes your survival tactic. When it comes to scripts, in the heat and the pressure of the listing presentation, when the owner has said, if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, only that which you have learnt by rote in training and repetition with your scripts will now come out naturally. If you haven't learnt this stuff by rote and practicing, then you're going to get yourself stuck. So make sure that these scripts here, they need to be carefully learned. Role playing and repetition works best when practiced. Consider recording your scripts and listening to them over and over in the car. And also, they need to be made to sound natural and suit your style and language of personality. And look, Dennis, I'm just going to put this right out here. It wasn't my plan to do this, but if you send us an email as well for this notes, I will give you a recording of this session that we've already done in audio, so you can listen to it over and over again in the car. It's actually one of the best sessions I've ever done. We recorded this session in a city here in Australia, in Perth. And Dennis, we remember the day. It was a great session.
Yeah, well, you were in the zone, mate, so I had to leave you alone. I couldn't jump in and banter with you. But can I just say, when I was a BDM working at Integrity Real Estate, I actually used to record myself on the phone. I had, you know, an iPhone. I'd put it on loudspeaker, and I'd grab another phone and I'd hit record. And then I would listen to myself when I was talking to an owner, and I would think, would I list with me? And the first thing that it taught me is I was talking too much and not listening to the needs enough. Okay, so I'll leave it on that. But yeah, it was just something that I did.
I
personally.
think Andrew, one of our associates, said that it's not the listing presentation, it's the listening presentation, and very much listening. So, okay, moving on. Now, what I want to do is bring in a principle today. Now, this principle, it's what I call a principle regarding fees and profit. And I've written about 11 of them, of things that I've discovered. I haven't actually created these. You can't create the law of gravity, but you can discover it. I've discovered what's called the law of alternate cost. And so if you provide a service for a fee, but then withdraw that service, so you're no longer providing it, and then what would be the alternate cost to the client if they had to go and provide the service for themselves or find it elsewhere? What would that alternate cost be? And if that alternate cost that the client or the owner is now going to have to pay out because they haven't got your service, and that cost is so much higher than what your fee would be, now you've justified the value of your service fee. Okay, if that alternate cost is a lot higher. So we're going to talk today. It's really important that you've always got to be talking about what that alternate cost is, if it's a lot higher than what your fee is. So when your fee is expressed in light with what that alternate cost is, now your fee looks like a bargain and you've proven the value of your fee. That's what's called the law of alternate cost. And that law can actually work with most of your fees. So the law of alternate cost, strategy number one, is very good with if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agents can do it cheaper. And here is a suggested script. Just understand the concept. Look, Mr. Smith, I can see that placing focus on some immediate savings might seem sensible to you right now. However, in my experience, going with a cheaper agent may cost you a whole lot more as soon as service becomes an issue, and also with the potential cost of, for example, $1,500 or $2,000 for extended vacancy periods or days on market period. Here, let me explain. And so the concept here is if they're going with a cheaper agent, what could it actually cost them, or unpack in other costs? Could it result in a lot more days on market because their marketing is not as effective as yours, or their way of doing things isn't as effective of yours? So how will that cost unpack? If it's days on market, could it be an extra $1,500 or an extra $2,000 simply because the owner wanted to save on 1% with a cheaper agency down the road? So that's the law of alternate cost there. And again, the law of alternate cost can be applied to just about all of your fees. Now let's talk about strategy number two, the hourly rate. And it's very good for these types of objections. Can you do a better fee or price? Why do I have to pay for inspections? Why are you charging me for these? The other agent doesn't charge for those inspections. Or why does it cost that much? Now, when it comes to, Dennis, very commonly, we don't see agencies charging for their inspections. Now, I know in Texas, a lot of agencies call their inspections assessments because you don't want to be seen to be doing building inspections. We get that. And we're talking about those inspections that you do every 6 months, or you do them annually, where you're reporting on the performance of the tenant and just making sure the tenant hasn't set up a methamphetamine laboratory or something like that at the property. So having a look at this here, what we need to also understand when it comes to charging for our fees, particularly an inspection fee, whatever fee you're charging, let's just put your fees in line with typical contractors that you're using every day. So for example, when we say contractors, we're talking your vendors. So your cleaner or gardener, what are they charging per hour? Now, typically when we ask these questions, and I remember when I was doing this session in Texas with about 300 agents in San Antonio, and also we had about 100 in Houston, a cleaner or gardener, there was around about that, that $30, $35, maybe $40 an hour. I think maybe as low as $25. A handyman was around about that $40, I think $50 an hour. And look, feel free if my numbers are wrong, let us know in the chat room, Dennis, if you can just manage that. Now, the electrician, there's what we call them a sparky. The electrician, what are they charging per hour? And yours might be, $60, $70, $80 an hour. The plumber, he might be about the same. It's a little bit hard to tell. Of course, we're in two completely different countries. Now, what about the geek that come out and fix your office computer? Here we're talking in Australian dollars, they're that $150 to $200 an hour. And your company accountant, in Australia here, we're talking $200 to $300 an hour. And what about your attorney? Here we're talking $400 to $500 an hour. I don't know what yours is going to be charging you. So keeping in mind what all these vendors or contractors are charging your company, what are you charging for an hour of work? Now, here's another question. How long does it take to do an inspection, or if you call them an assessment? Now, typically we have people say, well, it takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but hang on. What about booking time, drive time, do the inspection, and then what about all the work generated simply because you showed your face up at the property, and then getting the report ready and sending it to the owner as well? These things can typically take about an hour. So keeping an hour in mind, and I've given you some comparisons of what other contractors and vendors are charging, you're probably finding that your fees are far too low per hour. Now, if you want a bit of an idea about fees and what you should be charging and what you could be charging, well, of course, we're experts in that area. Get in contact with us, Darren at inspiredgrowthtraining.com. I'll be happy to have a look at your fees, do a quick phone call, and I can give you some ideas. Of course, we can't do it in this environment and talk about fees because we have antitrust considerations and laws that we must obey. All right, now moving on. How long does a routine inspection take? Again, I've shared it's about an hour. How long does a move-out inspection take? Or what about an insurance claim that you have to do on an owner's behalf? How long does that paperwork take? And you really should be charging fees for these types of services because they take time. What are other services based on time and work performed cost as well? So it's easy to prove and justify when you put it or express it as an hourly rate, but more importantly, understanding what your hourly rate you should be charging. All right. Don't be low, because you are managing how many rental properties. You are managing how much potential risk and litigation risk. And if you get out one of these and you work out what is the real estate value on the sales market for every one of your rental properties, what is it? 200, 300,000, and if you've got 100 properties at 300,000, then you're looking at, a portfolio of managing someone else's assets of up to $30 million worth. And if you're managing $30 million of someone else's assets, then your rate shouldn't be that or the same as the handyman or the plumber or the electrician per hour. Are you getting my point here? All right. You cannot be compared to them when it comes to dollars. So I'm hoping that what I've just said there and explained, your hourly rate should be a lot greater than what you're probably charging. Okay. Now, give you a bit of an idea, guys, that we've just done some work on your mindset here. And we've just increased your worth, and you can only ever charge your fees in line with what you believe you're worth. And hopefully just in that few minutes there, you've now earned or learned to earn a bit more because you've now believed you're worth more. Dennis, any comments?
Yeah, so agree with your perspective and love the thoughts on how to justify these items. Would love to get your thoughts on if I'm paying you a fee for each of these items, inspections, admin fees, etc., what does the monthly management fee cover?
Okay, so I'm going to give you this script. I'm not covering today, but I'm going to give it to you. And Dennis, remember, I was put on the spot in Perth on this one.
Yeah, I do.
All right, it's exact one. All right, and it's in the recording. So if you want the recording, email me, Darren at inspiredgrowthtraining.com, and I'll get you the recording. Okay, so I'm not prepared for this. I haven't actually revised this script, but here it is. Yes, Mr. Smith, I'm well aware of what other agents are charging, and we are aware that some agents are charging for inspections or move-out inspections and so forth. And look, when it comes to our fees, we charge for example, a leasing fee when it occurs. We charge an inspection when it actually occurs, and they occur ad hoc. They're not on a time basis. So we charge it on a user pays basis separately from the management fee, and if and when those services actually do occur. Now, if we were to take those user pay fees and roll them into the management fee, well, you're not going to be paying X percentage anymore. You could be paying Y percentage, which could actually turn out to be double the size of the management fee that we're charging now. And you're probably not going to like that, Mr. Owner, paying double management fee than what you're used to. So what we do is we keep the base management fee as low as we can and charge those other fees separately on a user pays cost basis to keep the base management fee low. Now, the point is, if other agents down the road aren't charging for those other user services or separate based services, and they're not charging for them, the question I need to ask, if they're not charging for those other services, are they actually doing them? Okay. So, Dennis, how did I go with that on the spot?
Yeah, I thought you did well, considering you weren't prepared for it. And look, another thing is, the management fee, and obviously this is all in accordance with what your agreement with the owner is, but and it is different in different states here in Australia as well. But the management fee is charged for the collection of rent. So it's like Darren was talking about, different fees. There's marketing fees, there's professional photography fees, there's videography fees, etc. as well. So the pure basis of most management fees is for the collection of rent.
Yeah.
And then
you
works on top that you do.
You're charging those fees so you can keep your base management fee low as well. Look, let's just keep on moving on. Hopefully, what was that person's name, Dennis?
That was from Calvin.
Calvin, okay. So hopefully, Calvin, that helped you. But again, in that audio, you'll get that script as well. Now, with the hourly rate, if people are challenging an inspection fee, you might respond, look, Mr. Smith, my plumber charges $90 just to go to the property and change a leaky faucet. This routine inspection is more important than a small piece of rubber or a washer and provides so much more value, yet it's only charged at. So put it in line with, how much does it cost for you to send the plumber out to go and change a leaky faucet? What's it going to cost to change that washer? And I bet you're going to get probably $90, $100 or something like that. I'm sure that your inspection fee is worth a lot more than a piece of rubber. So my point with this script is, don't be scared to charge quality monies for an inspection fee, particularly when your plumber is going to go and charge $100 to go and change a drippy faucet. All right, now if it's an insurance claim or a move-out inspection, it could be words, Mr. Smith, if we charged our true hourly rate for the services we provide, we would have to charge X dollars for 2 to 3 hours of work at Y dollars per hour. We're actually providing a massive discount on this, all righty? Because if you know your true value per hour as a agency, you're probably going to be charging a lot less for your services, and you need to show how much of a discount they're really getting compared to what you could be charging for your hourly services. Alrighty, now here's strategy number 3, the best negotiator. It's really good for the other agent will give a discount. Why can't you? Could you do a better fee or price? Probably some common ones. Now, I love this one, Dennis, particularly when you've got tenants that want to negotiate on the rent. So if they say the other agent will give a discount, why can't you? Well, Mr. Smith, if the other agent was quick to panic and offer a discount on their management fee, what does that say about their ability to negotiate the best rent for you should the tenant ask for a discount? So we're placing doubt that if the other agent was quick to drop their fees, what does that display about their ability to negotiate, especially if the tenant asks for a discount? All right, so understand that concept. You need to have the best negotiator so that you can have peace of mind. Will also get you the best rent should your tenant ask for a discount, I will be absolutely going into bat to ensure that you get the highest and best rent that is due to you. Any thoughts there, Dennis?
Yeah, look, I love this one when it comes to negotiating. Our job as property managers is to look after, we should have our owners' vested interest at first. It's got to be first. Our job is to, find a tenant as quickly as we can, get the highest rent that we possibly can, and get that tenant to move in as fast as we can once they are approved. What I used to say to this one, Darren, is, Darren, I understand that the other agencies offered you a discount. They're basically really quick to drop their pants. Similar to what you were just saying there, Darren. So if you don't mind me asking, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let me just explain how negotiating works. When a prospective tenant puts an inquiry on our website, we jump on the phone and we ring them up straight away. And our job is to get them to your property as quickly as can before they see another property. And when we're at the property, our job is then to negotiate with them why they have to apply for your property and not the other 5 or 6 that are similar to yours that are advertised online at the moment. And then once they're approved by yourself, our job is to then explain to them and negotiate with them that they've got to move in now rather than in 2 to 3 weeks' time or a month to hold the property. And then when they do get approved, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they ring us up and say they've got 5 other friends, 3 dogs, 2 cats, a kangaroo and a crocodile and an alligator to move in as pets, our job is to say, well, I'm sorry, but they weren't approved on the original application. And then when they don't want to give you access or they don't want to pay the rent anymore, et cetera, you can see that we are good negotiators and we're here on your behalf. If we put the wrong tenant in your property, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it could cost you thousands in damages. It could cost you thousands in vacancies as well. So it's all about showing them your worth, that you are a good negotiator. And for a couple of dollars a day, and a cup of coffee, I think you do say that in this script, and I'll leave that. It's well worth using us to negotiate on your behalf.
Well done. You need, Mr. Owner, you need the best, be confident to have the best negotiator so we can then negotiate strongly on your behalf. That's why we need to negotiate the best fee for us as well. All right. Please give some feedback, give some comments on how you like some of these scripts here. We do want to get some feedback, whether you like them, whether you're concerned about them, whatever. Give us some feedback, Dennis, if you can fire them as they come up.
Yep,
all right,
I've got a quick question for you, Darren. If you were starting a brand new company today, would you approach your structure with higher percentage and more included in that fee, or lower base percentage and adding more fees? Do you see profitable companies being one way or another or other more frequently?
I think the power of your ability to get the business over the line really comes down to your strength of points of difference. Now, whether you come in with the same management fee generally as the rack rate in the area, or a little bit higher, a little bit lower. If you're going a bit lower, you're actually saying, hey, look, we don't have strong points of difference. But if you come in at rack rate, come in with some really, really, really strong points of difference, then you're likely to get the prospective owners sway or influence over to you. If you're going to go, I have seen some agencies I've worked with that have unnecessarily, here is rack rate on management fees have come down lower. And then they've added in some extra other fees as well. Well, we've just simply then helped them adjust going from that lower point up to where they should be with their current clients. We've helped them, increase that, 1 or 2% that they were lower on. It can be unnecessary, but if you're going to come in at the same rack rate, the same approximate management fee in the area, and do your work on the other stuff. That's where Dennis and I do the work. Is are you charging all of the extra other fees that you can be? Whether it's a bigger leasing fee, is it a bigger, or you're not charging any lease renewal fee or inspection fees or other fees as well. Again, talk to us. We can advise on what's going to be right for you. But I don't think if you're a quality agency, you shouldn't be really charging a management fee, which is less than the accepted rack rate normal in your area. It's unnecessary, but if you have been doing that, we can help you reverse that, alrighty, with your current clients. That's what we specialize in. Okay, now, if they ask you to give a discount, the owner says, well, why can't you give a discount? Well, now we can take that same script we had before and respin it. Mr. Smith, if an agency is prepared to discount and negotiate down on fees that they believe are already very fair, what does that say about their ability to get you the best rent for your property if your tenant asks for a discount? Well, again, you need to have the best negotiator so you can have peace of mind. Look, if I'm willing to drop my fee that quickly, and what does that say about my negotiation skills? You should be concerned about that, Mr. Smith. You want to have a strong negotiator on your behalf. If the tenant asks for a discount, that's why we need to negotiate the best fee as well. All right, so just a respin on that one. Now, a cup of coffee, Dennis. This is one of my specialties. And don't, I'm going to say, talk about coffee when we travel to the USA. Dennis is always hanging out free. He doesn't like Starbucks. Dennis is probably one of the greatest coffee snobs that you'll ever see. So I know this script is very close to your heart, Dennis.
Very close to my heart, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've had one, right?
That's all right.
And one cup of coffee here is like 4 shots in America in one shot. So it's one of those things. I'm Turkish, my background. It's very strong coffee.
It's like drinking tar when I see you do it. So, all right, now it's good for this type of objection if you can match your management fee with the other agent down the road. And I might just skip past that, but now just want to understand, just put this in perspective, is that usually when it comes to negotiating and the owner wants a discount, it's usually around the management fee. And if it's around the management fee, it's usually around 1%. It's usually 1% discount. So keeping that in mind, that around that usual area, let's have a look at that. So what I want you to do is, if it's a management fee difference of 1% discount, turn that into dollars. Now, if it's $1,500 a month, that's $15 a month. That's 1%. And one thing, Dennis, I like, generally we find people in property management are very, very bad with math. So a lot of property managers don't realize what 1% discount really is. Because it's $1,500 a month in rent. Well, that's $15 a month. That's just 1%. And if you don't understand that was 1%, then the owner probably doesn't know it's 1%. So even just explaining, look, Mr. Smith, do you know what 1% really is? It probably pulls the whole thing apart. They don't realize how ridiculous what they're asking, and comparing you and not going with you because the other agent is at 1% difference. It shows how ridiculous it can be as well. But so the management fee difference of 1%, what's the monetary difference? And then relate it to an everyday consumable product. So if it's $15, I mean, how many cups of coffee is that? Well, in Australia, that might buy you 3 cups of coffee. But a lot of people have 3 cups of coffee a day, or it could be 2 cups of coffee a day. We're talking, 4 or 3 cups of coffee a month difference that you're asking between us and the other agency down the road. You're just showing how ridiculous it can be. Or it maybe is it 3 bottles of water or whatever. Everyday consumable product that comes in that monetary difference. So with that in mind, here is a sample script. Well, Mr. Smith, I can see that you wish to use our services. Now, always understand, when an owner says if you can match your management fee with the other agency down the road, they're actually saying, I like you, I want to use you, and I believe you're going to look after me, but if I can have your services with the fee of the other agency down the road, I want my cake and eat it too. So really accept what they're saying is a compliment. They're saying, I want you. So again, with the script, Mr. Smith, I can see that you wish to use our services. So therefore, can we agree that we'll be able to manage your property if we can just agree on price? So get their agreement on that. And then, well, Mr. Smith, you've asked us to match our fee with that of a competitor. Do you understand the actual difference between our main management fee is only a few or a couple of cups of coffee per week or per month? yet the service we provide is so much greater than that other agency down the road. Here, let me explain. Now, if you've got strong points of difference and you've already gone through those in your listing presentation, you need to go back and say, Mr. Smith, we do this, we do this, we do this. Did you see the other agency also showing you that they do those things too? And you know that's going to be a loaded question because likely the other agency isn't doing those strong points of difference. And go, yes, well, Mr. Smith, that's why we do charge that percentage more. By the way, did you know how much it actually is? Okay, because when you got strong points of difference, you put yourself into a better position of negotiation when they start asking for discounts. Dennis, any thoughts there?
Yeah, well, if Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you were to line up all of the agencies that you'd have over, and you were to take out the fees, who would you choose? You know, and if the person is actually saying to you, "Oh, you do the same thing," well, you haven't actually sold them on your points of differences. One of the key reasons an agent doesn't win the business is because they haven't sold their services to them. You know, it's a listing presentation, you know, so you're there, they've already got your trust, and that's why they've got you into the house, or that's why they've called you. Your job is now to close them, and by closing them, you've got to sell your services and show them how much you're saving them. So with regards to that coffee time, Darren, I'd even break it up to a day. You know, not just the $15 a month. I'd break it down to a day. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're talking about 50 cents. We save you more than 50 cents just by leasing your property 1 week quicker than our rivals. So whatever that 1 week rent is, if it's a $1,500 or $2,000, I think you're using, that's equivalent to $400 a week. That's an extra $400 in your pocket, which is far greater than that 1% discount you're asking for over a 12-month period. So actually show them how much it is, because people think that it's like a bank. We're like banks. It's not like a percentage from a home loan, you know, a loan from a mortgage, etc. It's basically we're talking about a smaller dollar value here.
All right, let's we'll continue on, guys. Now, we may not be able to get through all of the strategies today because of our time constraints. But again, if you email me, I'll be able to get you out the notes, and we'll also get you that audio recording as well. All righty. Moving on now. Matching services. This is one of my favorites, and it's good for if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agents can do it cheaper. Or the other agent will give a discount, why can't you? Now, this particular script here, I'd just like to explain. I was in Vegas at the Broker Owners Conference a couple of years ago, and I was taking a tour around the city with a gentleman called George. George was one of the local property management agents in the area. And I said, George, how do you respond to if you can match your fee with the other agency down the road? And this is how we came out with it. And you've got a more polite script on the screen here, but I'm going to give you George's version to this, okay? And so this is George. He's very, very direct, and you know he's just been asked if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road. This is how George responded. Look, Mr. Smith, I just want to confirm that you're wanting me to match my fee with the other agent down the road, correct? And I said yes. Well, if you want me to match my fee, it's only fair. I'm going to have to match their services as well and do what they do and provide their level of service. Are you happy for your emails not to get returned? Are you happy for your phone calls not to get returned? Are you happy if there's an urgent repair that needs to be done? Well, I'm going to ignore it for at least a month, because that is typically what my competitors are doing. And if you're wanting me to lower my fees, well, it's only fair I'm going to have to do what they do as well. And as you can see, we can't do that. Our service levels are so much better, so much higher. Therefore, we do have to charge our fee in line with that too. So if you like that script, it's a lot more polite version here on the screen, but that is the matching services. Thank you, George, from Vegas. Now, it is. It's a very good one. And it's an easy concept to understand, that one. And I'm hoping you're feeling more empowered. You don't have to discount just because the owner asked. One thing you need to understand is that same owner will go down to Walmart or Kmart and buy something at the cashier, and he's not going to ask for a discount at the cashier. He's not going to go down to, McDonald's or Burger King and bargain on his burger with the girl behind the counter, is he? No. So why is he doing it with you? Because you work in real estate, therefore you must work on commission, and therefore everything's negotiable. They're just there to play the game. They're there to have fun. They want to negotiate because it's one of the few industries where they can do that. And so you've just got to play along. Don't greet the objection with fear. Get to know your scripts. It's all about how you respond to what the owner says that counts. And if you can respond really well, if you believe you're worth it, you know how to justify your particular fee, then they are going to believe you too. Alrighty, let's talk about one of my favorite scripts, competing on service. It's good for if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agents can do it cheaper, or the other agent charges only X percentage. All right, so a sample script. Well, Mr. Smith, we are aware of the fees other agents are charging, but did you know they know what our fees are too? And despite knowing what our fees are, and also knowing they cannot compete with us on our level of service to win your business, they have instead adjusted and discounted their fees down in line with what their service levels are. It's quite honest, really, isn't it, Mr. Smith? So again, it's really expressing you get what you pay for. Your fees are delivered here. This is what we charge, because our service levels are here. Our competing agents down the road, if they're cheaper, it must be that their service levels are offering a lot less. Alrighty, it's placing doubt and showing them that you really do get what you pay for. All right, strategy number 7, what service do I leave out? This is a very common one that agencies and brokers use, but it's good for these types of objections. If you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, the other agents can do it cheaper, or the other agent is only charging X percentage. So sample script, well, Mr. Smith, for us to remove a portion of our fee or do it cheaper, we also need to remove a part of our services. Now, whether it's tenant selection or screening, chasing late rent, or doing inspections, everything we do is essential to the overall management service. And as we must, in all good conscience, provide 100% service to you, we can't leave it out like pizza slices. We can't take out 2 pizza slices. We've got to give you the whole pizza. Therefore, we have to charge a whole and full fee for everything that we provide to you. We just can't take bits and pieces out. The machine is simply not going to work properly if we leave important parts of the machine out. So whatever way is your analogy to explain this, this is a very common strategy that's used. Now,
it's not like you're going to ask a heart surgeon for a discount when they tell you how much your surgery is going to cost, right? So, it's interesting that, society, and I'm not sure what it's like in America, but there are companies in Australia that actually advertise, and it's like electronic shops, whether it's you're buying a fridge, a lounge, or furniture, etc. They say, come in and offer us cash, get a cheaper rate for cash. So society's advertising to pay less for cash, etc. So it's become the norm for people to actually ask for discounts. I remember the first time I had a client ask me for a discount, I didn't know what to do. My very first presentation, they asked me for a discount. I rang my boss. I said, they've asked for a discount. What do I say? My first presentation, and it's like I didn't know people could ask for a discount. I thought this was the fee and this is what we charge. So I come here and I do all of this work, and they think I'm not worth it. So it's interesting. But back to a doctor or a surgeon, how dare we? You can't take the risk, because if they all of a sudden they don't do that stitch, connecting that the vein or however it is in heart surgery, you're going to die. Like then. Relate it to real estate. If we don't do routine inspections, the tenants are going to damage your property. I know what it's like with my children. If I walk past their bedrooms and I'm pointing because they're there, and they don't clean their room every time I walk. If I stopped saying clean your room every time I walk past, can you imagine what the room would be like in 6 months' time or 6 days' time. So it's just driving home and bringing it to the personalisation of the client that you're with, you know.
So, Dennis, we might actually make this our last strategy because of time constraints. I can see that our time is almost up. So we'll just go through this one. And then if it's okay, Jonathan, we just want to go through a very quick offer that we can offer the people in your group as well. But strategy number 8, impressing with stats. It's very good for, I just want to know your fees. Now, one thing to understand, and this is something that I've learned from Dennis, okay? So this strategy number 8 is very much Dennis's tactics, but understand your vacancy rate, or you can call that your days on market. Now, what percentage of your properties are now vacant or currently empty, not earning any management fee income? So if you've got 100 properties or 100 doors, and 3 properties or 3 doors are empty right now, not earning any money because they have been previously rented, now they are vacant, the tenants moved out 3, then here in Australia, we'll call that a 3% vacancy rate. And in this case here, 3 doors, that means your vacancy rate is 3%, or you can say we've got our occupancy rate of 97%. So that's that glass half full, glass half empty. Is a vacancy rate is sort of a negative thing. Occupancy rate is that positive thing. Keeping in mind with late rent as well is that if 3 of your tenants are behind in rent out of 100 tenants, or in this case, 97% of your tenants paid their rent on time in May. Sorry, Dennis, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes you might have, if you've got 100 doors, you might have 5 properties advertised, but, 2 of them are still collecting rent because the tenant actually hasn't moved out yet, or they've paid up to that date. So, you can say that, and 97% of our tenants are paying their rent as well, with the 2 vacant, obviously. So it's turning it into the positive. Let the rival agents talk about the negative, and you go in with the positive. And and if you're an agent that's rattling on these statistics, for example, a popular stat in Australia is 80% of tenants that are applying for properties have some form of a pet. So when you have an owner that says, no, I don't want pets, then you then turn it around and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we only approve pets. You approve the tenant with the pet, but if we advertise a property no pet, someone with a goldfish or someone with a rabbit may not think that they're allowed to apply. So let's have considered, because 80% of potential tenants have some form of a pet. So you're talking about the stats, then you're looked at as that market leader. So I love stats.
Moving on, and I just want to say, look, with working with agents in Texas, they're charging pet rent, they're charging pet lease as well to tenants. There is all sorts of different fees that you should be charging with your tenants. And just get in contact with them. I'm happy to set up a phone call and go through your fee structure and look at, is there extra 1 or 2 fees you could be increasing or adding with your owners, also tenants as well. Typically, Dennis, we've found anywhere up to an extra $3,000 to $10,000 a month in fee income for brokers with 3 or 4 or 500 doors. Okay, so get in contact. We'll be happy to go through that. Now, just moving on with this one, Mr. Smith, I'll be happy to let you know what our fees are, but please let me ask a question first. Now, this is very good for any owners that just call you up on the phone and say, hey, I just want to know your fees. Alrighty, so in that case, Mr. Smith, I'll be happy to let you know what our fees are, but let me ask you a question first. Will your decision be based on the agent with the lowest fees, or the one who will get your property rented the quickest, or the tenant who will pay the rent on time? Mr. Smith, is important to you that you get the property rented quickly, and is important that your tenants pay the rent on time? Is that important? Now, that's a loaded question. They're only going to say yes. Well, Mr. Smith, last month we had an occupancy rate of 96.2%, and 97% of our tenants paid their rent on time. Now, when you're calling other agencies for their fees, make sure you also ask them for their occupancy rate and their tenants paying rent on time percentage as well. But please, Mr. Smith, promise me this. If they can't tell you or answer what their percentages are, will you promise me that you'll call me back? Now, you see, we've now forged a point of difference on the phone with those owners that ring up and say, hey, I just want to know your fees. And Dennis, I learned that one from you.
Yeah, it was just one that came natural to me, and that's possibly because of my fruit and vegetable background when I had no complaints about fruit. If I bought tomatoes and I had no complaints about tomatoes for the month, I'd say, I had 100% of satisfied clients just on purchasing these tomatoes, and that's why you need to buy them off me. And I was selling to restaurants, cafes, etc. So I just put, the same scripts into, real estate when I joined.
Yep. All right, well, let's just roll this up, and we just want to put this offer out to you regarding our training. You've just got a sample of about an hour of our training, and Dennis and I have put together a lot more training. In fact, we've presented and already recorded about 30 hours of training, and we're going to be adding another 10 sessions in the next few months. So we're going to have about 40 to 45 hours of different types of training. And the training covers, overcoming common objections, how to stand out from other competitors with points of difference, how to make the phone ring. Dennis, with your 900 properties or doors that you signed up over 4 years, there's a number of different strategies we've already recorded.
Be proactive to chase the business, not waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for someone to refer business to you. There's sessions in there on how to make the phone ring.
So very quickly, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we'll have about 40 property management, growth, marketing, profitability topics. I've also done 3 sessions on how you can increase your fees with your current owners and your new owners as well, all my fee maximization stuff. They're around about 45 to 60 minutes each. You can access the videos on any device, anywhere. They are simply Vimeo videos. You just access them with a password. You can watch them at your own convenience, just like Netflix. You can watch them at any time. They're really good for team meetings and training sessions as well. The normal cost it's $750 US in joining fee. It's about $999 Australian. And then you pay $75 US a month. There's no lock-in contract, so you can end at any time. Now, that's our normal offer. However, there are some action takers out there that are able to make a decision and take action within 24 hours. If you're able to take action within 24 hours, then we got a special offer for you. We're also going to add in $800 worth of value. So we're already going to be covering your joining fee. Now, firstly, worth about $600, I'm going to give you my very best audio learning, which is recorded live seminars on how you can justify your fees. So you can talk about how to justify your leasing fee, your inspection fee, all manner of different things. 35 ways to stand out and win is really my library of points of difference, about 35 different points of difference you can choose from. Also, 8 different ways or things that you can be doing to get higher and better fees with new owners as well. So a lot of teaching there, over 11 hours of my teaching. Plus, you may recognize this guy, Steve Rosenberg. He is from Houston. He has one of the fastest growing property management companies in Texas right now. Dennis and I finished a national tour with him only a couple of months ago, and we're going to give away the recording for that day with Steve, Dennis, and my teaching. It's worth around about $200. So we're giving about $800 worth. So if you get, send us an email. We'll send you an order form. If you can get your order form back within 24 hours, you're going to get that $800 worth of value. If you're not able to, of course, you can still join at any time, but you still got to pay that joining fee without getting that added value. So I'm all done there. Jonathan, if you want to come back into the room, I'm hoping that the brokers got a lot out of that session. We probably went a little bit over than what we normally do. I'm just going to take off screen share.
Yep, Calvin has said, awesome session. Thanks, Dennis and Darren. Yeah, I inputted so much into that session, Darren. So my voice is a little bit sore.
This is one of my sessions, David. Boy, I'll tell you, Dennis has got so much content. We just wish we had so much more to give you. Remember, we are going to be in September in Northern Nevada, NAPM Group at Lake Tahoe, but also in Florida as well. State NAPM conference in September as well. And Dennis, I think we've already been booked in to the Door Grow group with Jason Hull in
November.
in St. Louis in Missouri in November. So we are going to be around, guys. But Jonathan, over to you.
Great. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. Great stuff there. Certainly appreciate it. Aaron, any final concluding thoughts for us?
Nope, I don't have anything. Again, thank you, both of you, Darren and Diaz. I appreciate you guys taking out this early morning and spending it with us here with QEnter. So thank you.
No worries. And by the way, guys, this is my green screen. So this is not actually my office. It's just an image. Dennis has got one too. So it's a middle of
and just to show you guys, I've also got my my Texas flag here. Look at this.
Nice.
We love, seriously, I just want to say,
Kevin Knight
Dennis
gave me this.
that Dennis and I are very, very similar. We know if we were going to be born, somewhere in the world again, it was going to be Texas. All right, we are Texans at heart.
I'm going to take a photo of my back wall just to show you guys something, and I've got to turn my phone around. Have a look at that. What's on my wall? Okay,
Awesome.
so Steven Rosenberg and his wife, Steve from Empire Industries, they bought me that flag when I was doing some training in their office. So yeah, it's a huge flag, and it's up there in Pride. We love coming to the US and doing some training over there.
Particularly Texas. We love Texas. And
Love Texas.
Brad Larson from San Antonio,
Don't bring Brad up. Don't bring Brad up.
Brad is an excellent guy, a good friend. So
yeah.
Brad's a good guy. He took me shooting when I was there. He's a nutbag, but he's a great guy. Yeah. So, in all seriousness, what we've given you guys today is just a touch on what we do, and that deal that Darren has put together is just phenomenal. It's really, we've just done a short session on what is there, and our job is to obviously grow the doors for you guys. So I'm glad that you really did enjoy it. Now, can I just ask? Is there a fire somewhere? I heard some sirens on someone's. It wasn't me, officer.
All right, so I'll just wrap up. But again, if you do want to get the PowerPoint, get the audio that we've got free, and also we'll get you that order form. If you're able to get it back to us in 24 hours, you'll get that special deal. So I'm all done. Thank you so much for the invite. We just love training, particularly brokers in, Texas, or I'm assuming, Jonathan, we probably wrongly assume that you guys are all based in Texas, but is it spread over the United States?
It is indeed. Yep.
So we got that wrong.
That's all right.
The Texas group.
That's all
Well,
right.
I've got a New Mexico flag as well that our good friends, the Johnsons, gave us when we were there